Hey, everybody. Riding Sidesaddle. We're back.
Here we are.
It's Tammy.
And Lisa.
And we have a guest in our studio today. Our friend Marcy's here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Marcy.
Marcy is gracious enough to come and spend some time with us. So I'm not going to introduce you very well. So I'm going to hand you that baton after I make the verbal connection of how we know you.
Okay.
So in a previous life, not in an actual previous life, but in a different workspace in this lifetime, I met Marcy. She was my boss's boss. And we collaborated on some projects as we worked together. And I got to spend some time with you as we were, just strategizing and figuring out different projects. And I always just kind of looked at you like, she's awesome. Like,
Aww.
she's super awesome. I really like her. And then I would go back and, we'd meet again in a week or two and I'd be like, man, I really like her. And then I realized why. Well, aside from the fact that you're a super wonderful person, we have so many commonalities.
We do. We definitely do.
It's uncanny. I'm like, dang, she's just really awesome. Kind of like me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
She reminds me of someone. I wonder who.
Somebody awesome.
Someone I really like.
I feel like I know her so well.
Yeah.
So we are born within days of one another.
Within days of each other.
Yeah, like 4 days of one another. So
The same year even?
73?
I'm a year
74.
older.
Oh, okay.
72.
All right.
72,
All right.
yeah.
But we're in the same astrological sign. We're also same Enneagram, right?
We are.
Enneagram 1, which is what I resonate with. And Marcy clearly, even when she doesn't realize it, is stating, announcing it in some of the things that she says. And we've also just realized that we were all married in the month of March.
Yes.
Yeah.
So kind of cool.
Cool.
It is. So I had to tease about that. I really always did admire and appreciate you. And so it really truly is a gift to me that we have come back together in a different way. And I'm just so grateful. But I will hand you that baton now, and you can really just introduce yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was so sweet. And, I definitely feel a connection to both of you as well. And so, Tammy, even though we aren't born in the same month,
We're not, I know. And I'm
okay.
still older than you by another whole year. So there's that.
There's that. Well, so anyway.
We were married in March, though.
But we were married in March, so we've got that. We've got March. We'll always have March,
we'll
right?
always have March.
So, as Lisa mentioned, we met in a previous work life.
Yeah.
And I work in human resources, and I'm a life coach and certified in the Enneagram. And, really my passion is helping people learn about themselves, learn about where they want to be. That's what drives me. I want people to be their best self, and whatever that is and whatever that means, and to find that purpose. So that's in a nutshell. That's who I am. That's what drives me at the end of the day. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Over and over, because ultimately, right, that's a lot of what our topics have been about.
Yes.
Really just naturally gravitating towards that self-discovery component, peeling just the outer,
the onion.
portions of the onion away to really try to figure out, who the hell am I?
Right.
And what am I doing here and why?
I need a lot of help in that regard. So this might be a really long episode.
Well, Tammy, it takes a long time. It's not fast. It's not easy. There isn't one right way. There isn't There are all the things that you guys have been talking about and exploring with different people. I mean, it's all of those components. It's not any one thing, and it does take a long time. It's hard. It's hard.
It is. Like repeatedly racking my head against the wall, right? And even like conversations that we have in our episodes, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. Like I do that, right? And then to really pick that apart and to analyze that one thing, it's painful.
It is painful. So I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable in this episode. During our planning session, I joke a lot about how I don't really know myself, but it is becoming more and more obvious that that's not a joke. I really don't know myself, and that makes me really sad. I'm almost 52 years old. When am I going to know who I actually am? So I'm feeling a little emotional, little extra emotional today.
Yeah.
So if I'm a little bit quiet in this episode, it's because I'm processing some yuck. I shouldn't say that. It's not even yuck. I'm processing some feelings.
Yeah. Right.
And trying to be present and participate. But I'm feeling a little bit heavy today.
There's a background playing.
Yeah, for
you.
sure. Absolutely. I mean, it seems, and we say this all the time, it's so simple, but it's not easy.
Oh, it's not
right?
at all.
So you answer these questions. How hard can that be? Right? There's no wrong answer. It can't be hard to answer some goddamn questions. But then at the end, when it tells me I'm this when I thought I was that, or then I take it again and now I'm a different number. And I'm like, now I've got like 4 numbers that on the table I'm playing with. I don't even know who I am.
And perhaps how you maybe analyze the questions, right? Like,
that
like
obviously is
part
it.
of your job is like very analytical. So what exactly do they mean by this word? And maybe that could mean this in this context.
Well, so maybe that's
it.
Maybe I am not answering them correctly, even though you really can't answer them incorrectly. When like some of the words are, my biggest fear is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I mean, that is a fear. It's not my biggest fear.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that. Right. So then perhaps I'm not answering it correctly. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Not that it's right or wrong, but that I'm not answering it with the intent that the question is
being asked.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think one of the the blessing and the curse of the Enneagram is that it allows for all of that variation, and it acknowledges and speaks to the fact that we aren't any one thing. So sometimes you'll take a personality test and this is it. You are here. You are this one thing. You are this color. You are this combination of letters. And it's not that sometimes you may be a different combination. Nope, that's your combination.
Right. From the minute you were born.
From the minute you were born. And the Enneagram, what I find makes it so rich, especially as we look at delving into self-awareness and learning about ourselves and others, is that it allows for that variation, that nuance, the fact that it's kind of, like spice, right? Like we don't eat our food with no spice. We add some salt, we add some pepper. Sometimes we might add some paprika if you're me, because I love paprika. And, but we do those things naturally, and our personalities are like that as well. We take and we have components of ourselves in the different facets of the Enneagram. We lean on some more heavily than the others, right? Like we have there is a core that we have, but we have that opportunity to really explore all those nuances. And again, that's the blessing and the curse, because it feels like it should be as simple as answering a few questions. Give me my letters, my number, my color, whatever it is, and that's it. Right.
I feel confident
in that, and that's what it is. And the Enneagram says, well, here's your core, but then you have this wing, Well, and you actually have 2 wings, and you're going to use both of them or you can't fly. And then, well, you have some levels of development, and you may be under stress or you may be in a growth, and that's going to give you some different variation. So that, there's just all of these components. So, simple, but so
not really
simple,
complicated.
really, really complicated, and
Very
hard,
nuanced.
very nuanced, very tough
Spectrum.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Very tough work.
It just it reminds me of a spectrum, right? Like there's all sorts of shades of gray in this, and there isn't one defining factor
Right.
to say you are definitely this or you are definitely not because of XYZ reason.
And I will tell you that, throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to administer a number of personality assessments, take a large number of them, take them multiple times because I want to test them and see if they are correct. And it's that spectrum that, sometimes I wish it was black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wish someone would just tell me it is exactly this. But then when I take that time and introspect about a situation or my reaction in a situation, it's like, darn,
Mm-hmm.
that little wing was showing up and flapping really hard or whatever the case may be. And
I'm only flying to the
right,
left.
and I'm going one way and I'm kind of going in circles, and
Because they have one short wing and one really big wing.
yeah, exactly. And I want the black and white,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
So we kind of just jumped right in with some,
we did.
that's okay, with some foundational understanding of Enneagram. We talked a lot about Enneagram at the beginning of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found out that Marcy was certified, I was like, man, all of these little facets that are going around in my brain that I don't know the answers to, she's going to be able to help support, building that out more. So I want to give you the opportunity to lay even more foundation to Enneagram than what we've talked about, in season 2 with Jamie and Becky. Things that perhaps as you were listening to those episodes, you're like, yes, that's true. And this is super important. And maybe we, overlooked that because we aren't certified and we were using it, just based on our own personal experience. And then I thought it might be fun to kind of take some of that and like overlay Enneagram into some of the other topics that we discussed during season 2. So for instance, as an example, processing emotions, right? We talked about emotional management in season 2 with Nikki, and, perhaps how does it look when Enneagram overlays that? Like what pitfalls, what challenges do particular types have for things like that? I'm a nerd. I thought that kind of stuff would be fun.
Okay. I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
All right.
I will nerd out with you and see where this goes. So starting from a foundational aspect. So I think you guys did a good job of covering, what the Enneagram is. It's the 9 points, 9 numbers that
They're in a wheel.
they're in a wheel.
Mhm.
Yep, they're in a wheel. There's 9, and they usually get broken out into triads.
Right.
And we'll talk about those triads. And those 9s all have a core motivation and a core fear. And that's what's really at the heart of the Enneagram is that core motivation, that core fear. And so when we're exploring, where we are, what we are, again, at that core, we really look at that. And most often, I know for myself, my top 2 in every Enneagram test I've taken, which I'm not even going to tell you how many, but, I show up as a 1 or an 8.
Okay.
Those are my top 2 scores almost constantly. And
Wait. So you've taken than once and you come up with different numbers?
Different numbers, but I will say the 1 and the 8 are always at the top for me.
Consistent.
That
They
makes
are
me
consistent.
feel so much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm like, how come every time I take this dang test, it might be a different test, but I end up with a different number?
Yeah, and something else shows up.
Yeah.
And what I've found over time and in doing this is that it's really, it's that deep work in saying, what is really driving me? And that's what the Enneagram is based on. And really is what is that core defining drive, desire, fear? And the glory of it is as you go through it and learn about it, it gives you that compassion for yourself and that compassion for others. And I think that's really important when we're exploring where we land, where we start from, actually, because again, we have all of these other components. So from a foundation, it's really starting with understanding your core desire, that core fear. And that's critical. Once you understand that, what you can then look at are those wings. And your wings are the numbers to the left and the right of your number. So on either side. And those wings, they are, I mentioned before, that spice, but your wings are really your spice. They're like your salt and pepper. And you're going to use both of them, but you are going to rely on one more than the other.
Okay. So I will be
So
flying
you have
around.
one big wing.
So you would likely be
just
flying.
making left turns here.
We're just going to make some left turns. Right, exactly. We're all going in little circles and,
I'm seeing Nemo and
Nemo,
Finding
yeah.
Nemo with one
exactly,
little
with his little
mini fin.
flipper.
Yeah. Right.
And, So those wings will impact your. So again, as an example, I'm a type 1, and Lisa's a type 1, as she mentioned. And we are very similar. We are, but we are not the same person.
No,
right?
we're not.
And we as we've discussed and had different conversations, we react very differently in conflict, as an example. And part of that is because
I like pepper.
Lisa licks her knuckles.
I am a salt.
I like pepper.
I'm a salt. So, it makes sense.
I
See?
do lick my knuckles.
Oh, man.
To tell everybody, Tammy.
I'm going to have to be
You kind
careful.
of do it a
what
lot. I didn't know it was a secret.
Well, it's a podcast. They can't see me. Unless it gets really licky. Okay.
Oh, man.
So I'm a pepper, you're a salt.
Yes. So again, this is where some of that, now you start to see some of that nuance and some of what really sets the Enneagram apart from other personality assessments, just with that little bit of the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So we can be the same core, but we're different.
Yep.
Right? And then you add in your response under stress or in healthy growth. And so each core number has a place that it goes to in stress, and it will then take on some of the average to unhealthy attributes of that number, and where it goes in growth, where it takes on some of those components as well. So again, now you can see you have the potential, you're a core, and you have 4 other dimensions. So now we're talking, you have 5 out of 9 that you are pulling from, that you are drawing on in your responses. You can still draw from other ones. So for instance, 7 is an enthusiast, right? They're very gregarious and outgoing. And I think that for many of us, we can think of times where we've been that way. We've felt that way, and we've touched on those components of personality. But again, they're not at that core and driving us.
I'm not that way most of the time, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then the next piece is you start to look at triads. And your triads, obviously with 9, you can separate into 3. So you have triads that will touch on how you respond unconsciously in situations. So for instance,
Ooh, this is the scary part.
I know. This is where it's getting real.
Okay.
It's getting real. So one of the triads, the 8, 9s, and 1s, are the instinctual center, or you'll often hear it referred to as the gut triad.
Yes.
And so these individuals, these core types, they unconsciously respond with anger and different places of anger. So for instance, as a 1, I own it. I will typically hold in my anger. It's there, but I will keep it tight and I will keep it close.
Yeah.
Whereas an 8 is very likely to express that feeling that they're having, that anger, that unconscious feeling. So that's your gut triad. And much like it's referenced there as the gut, they are likely to respond very quickly. So they're usually quick decision makers. They're going to give that response pretty quickly. Then you have your...
Tammy and I are just like, is that me? Is that...
I feel like that is me.
Yeah.
My husband would say it is, for sure. And I don't think I'm like that with everyone.
Agree. We were just having this conversation.
I think because it's not safe with everyone.
Yeah, different environments might constitute a different way.
Absolutely. And we have to take into, again, as you develop more self-awareness, there are times, and I guarantee that you have both done this. I guarantee it. Right? You catch yourself, as you're saying right now, right? There are times, there are places where you're going to, I'm going to say, just be more your natural self than in others. And we course correct, we hold back, we do all of that based on our experiences, based on the environment, based on previous environments that we've been in, conditioning. I know you guys have done a lot of conversation about trauma response. That plays into it as well. So we have to take all of that into account as we go through and explore where we're at in the Enneagram and how it can help us, how it can help us learn about ourselves and how we do respond, how we don't respond in those situations. So that's our friends in the gut triad. Then we have the heart. So the heart is our 2s, 3s, and 4s. And, they're dealing with a lot of the emotions and that outer response. For them, what they're working against, that unconscious response, is one of shame. So they don't want to feel shame. So when we think about our friends in the 3s, the achievers, they want to succeed. Again, they want to achieve. They don't want to fail. If they fail, it's a feeling of shame. Like, how could I? How could I not have done better? So again, that a lot of that feelings that they are reacting to and responding from in that triad.
So perhaps a trigger word maybe for them is disappointment.
Yes,
right? Because that's
absolutely.
associated with shame.
With shame.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. So that resonates very strongly with that triad, with those 2s, 3s, and 4s. When we look at the 5, 6, and 7s, they are what is referred to often as the head triad. So they are the thinking center. Yes, thinking center or the head triad. And they are thinking of all the things that could happen. Like if you're a 6, you're always thinking of, okay, well, what if this, then that, then this is going to happen? And thinking all of those things, which are often somewhat, it can come off as pessimistic from a 6. Again, they're just planning. They're trying to avoid, here's what their feeling is, anxiety. Right? So they're trying to avoid that by thinking of everything.
Right.
The fives will dig deep into research. They're typically those individuals who not only research, but then want to know really how something works down to the very last detail. They're a little more introverted.
So they know what to expect, perhaps.
So they know what to expect.
And that will reduce anxiety.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. They want to reduce that anxiety. And then our 7s, they're the most outgoing. They're the enthusiasts.
Yeah.
They avoid that anxiety by doing something else. They're moving right on to the next thing. So if you know someone who's on vacation planning their next vacation, that kind of
that avoidance type of thing. All right.
You know, that's their response to that anxiety. So
It's interesting that is a thinker, though, as opposed to something heart-centered where it's more a feeling.
Well, again, it's that anxiety that they have if it's not. For a 7, if they have to stop and think too hard about it, their anxiety increases. And so to mitigate that, they are just going to move on to the next thing. For the 6,
They're almost like thinkers in reverse.
Yeah, it feels
a little
very
bit
opposite.
It feels a little opposite.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about trying to reduce that anxiety.
Yeah.
And they just do it in different ways. Which is interesting.
I get it.
Yeah. So those are the main foundations, but there are, you guys, this goes so deep. So there are some other triads that talk about your conflict style, your relational style, your interpersonal coping styles, all of these different ways that you again respond and react, and how you do that in concert with some of those other core values around the Enneagram. So then you can begin to see in relationship how it plays out.
Yeah.
And how you may or may not, be similar, be dissimilar.
In different unconscious reactions.
Absolutely.
So the two of you being ones, I mean, that says you're similar, right? But you don't react the same in similar situations. Like in a conflict situation, for instance, you don't.
Right.
Lisa will come toe to toe, and you're more like, I'm out.
I'm going to detach.
Not worth it.
Yeah.
But you're both ones.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is what is kind of like just really exciting, right?
Yeah.
Because we can be similar. Again, we have some of that core motivation, but
I think
different.
Yeah. So I would be very interested, since we're talking about knuckle licking and all of those things, to pull up and talk about that conflict piece a little bit further. And while you're doing that, what's interesting, I've been reflecting a little bit. You're right. Like I will come toe to toe if it is important enough to me.
Sure.
And that is the determining factor for me. I see maybe where I don't agree, or there's a conflict that perhaps is there. And truly inside of my head, I'm like, well, how important is this to me? Right? I'm not going to come head to head about every little thing. I don't really give a rat's ass about most things. But if it is something that conflicts with my value system, it's over. I will come head to head every time. So I'm curious about that, because from that perspective, right, I do detach in some situations. not important. I go for it. Like, I have a different opinion, but I really don't care that much. There are some things, though, that like really go against who I am at the core. And those are the things that I think I probably focus on.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Lisa. I think that it is extremely natural, no matter what your type is, no matter what your coping style is, or what they found to be the typical coping style for your core type, is that when something challenges our values, we are likely to respond in a way, right? We're gonna respond in a knuckle licking way. We're gonna get there. So I think sometimes too, it's important to think about your typical reaction. So when you listen to this, and so as you were describing that, and as I'm, referring to the different coping styles and those triads, there are 3. So there's obviously, because there's 9, there's 3 triads, you guys. All right. So we have the reactive triad, which is your 4, 6, and 8s. And so they're going to be more emotionally reactive. They're going to be the ones that, not only are they emotionally reactive, but they want you to react at that same level with that same energy that they're bringing. They want you to be there. And if you're not,
show up.
They want you to show up, and they're going to be disappointed, and they're going to let you know if you don't show up.
Yeah.
Then we have the logical reaction, and that's the 1s, 3s, and 5s. And this group is going to emotionally, they're going to detach, kind of like you were saying. And we'll dig into that a little more, but they're going to detach, and they're really going to look at, what is that logical solution? Where can I be objective to get through this conflict and, move forward? And then we have the third group, which is the optimistic group. And these are the 2s and 7s and 9s. And they really, really work to, they want to reframe that conflict, right?
Yeah.
So something comes at them and they're like, well, but if we look at it like this, and that's how they're going to get through it. They're going to reframe it and try to make it kind of optimistic. It's not really a problem.
So I'm trying to think of a good example of that. Like, if we were all just sitting down for dinner and I stuck my finger in your food, which would completely be like,
a little aggressive.
Right. Right. If you were in
what are we eating?
If you were,
I need to find out how much I care.
You're being logical right now. How much do I give a shit about this?
Right.
But you could, if you were in that optimistic place, you could be like, well, at least you checked to see if it was warm. Like, is that?
You could. Or, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out
and reframing it to say, well, she wasn't just, she didn't want to like ruin your food for you. She wanted to make sure it was warm. She was taking care of you. She really wanted to make sure
I'm
that.
definitely not in that.
So that feels like a very slippery slope to me. Like that sort of thing is how I ended up in a really abusive marriage for a long time, because I was reframing all of the time to make it more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Instead of just seeing it for what it really was. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I think with anything there's some slippery slope, right?
You just punched me in my eye, but I mean, probably just slipped. You were just gesturing and I got in the way. Like and that's how that feels to me. Like, it just is an excuse.
Yeah.
Like, fast lane to codependency.
Well, and it's definitely a defense mechanism, right? In many respects, it can be, and in many situations, a defense mechanism, because that's how you can survive.
Right.
That's I
don't like that one at all.
I know.
I'd rather be a knuckle licker.
Well, the good thing is that while we don't know exactly where you reside,
I know we're still working on that.
I'm pretty sure. I think you're safe. I think you may be more along the knuckle licker line. So I'm just saying. I mean, we may find out I'm wrong as we continue to explore and work together. But
it's interesting because today I would absolutely say I'm more of a knuckle licker, but in my early 20s, I was not. I was the reframer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so again, that environmental, situational impact and how that brings out some of those other components of personality, they're real.
Yeah.
They're real. And it does explain, and help us understand, and maybe not explain, but help us understand why we are different at different stages in our lives, different stages and phases. And again, I'm not always going to be a certain set of letters,
right,
or a certain color,
right.
And it allows us to have that growth and to respect those times in our lives as well, because they make us.
They do.
Right.
They do.
Right.
And it's
every last version of ourselves
was
there
version.
for a reason. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's, again, we've said it from the moment we started. It's hard. It's hard admitting that. It's hard seeing it. It's hard reflecting. And it doesn't stop.
No.
It doesn't stop. You mentioned, Tammy, not like, oh my gosh, here I am at this age, and oh my gosh, I don't know. Oh my goodness, I don't know that. There's some glory in, like, we are always changing. We are always learning about ourselves. I personally find things out, like I'll be doing some introspection, some self-reflection, and then it's like, whoa, where'd this come from? Whatever,
Right.
Something pops up to me, and it's like, where did that come from? And it can be really hard. And it has definitely, there have been times where it kind of takes me down for weeks.
It
Yeah.
knocks you on your
It
ass.
knocks you on your ass. It does.
Kind of shakes you to your core, right?
Yeah.
The
It
things
does.
I thought to believe true and held close,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden are maybe not what I thought they were.
That's exactly it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty in it, right? To be able to unravel things to that degree, to put them in, categorize them differently in your head and your heart so that you can move forward in a different manner, right? To step away from what that used to be or who I used to be, what my belief system was.
If it's no longer serving you,
That's right.
why stay
Right.
there?
That's
Why
right.
hang on to those things
Absolutely.
Right.
that aren't, they're no longer serving you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. And I go back to, and I do call on, as I mentioned, that compassion for myself, for the self I was, for the self I am, for the self I'm going to be or hope to be.
Right.
All of those versions, because it's that compassion that it really helps us. It improves our ability to communicate and connect. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want that
sure.
connection, and that. So
That's why we're here.
it is why we're here.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Lisa.
Okay.
Ooh, I may have forgotten my next question. I don't know what are we thinking foundationally? How are you guys feeling?
What thoughts do you have? Like, what holes do you feel like we have yet in the foundation that need to be filled?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay.
Because I
just don't know.
I don't know anything
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
That's just where I'm going
Right.
to be. I just don't know anything.
well, now
That's not
that
true.
is absolutely not true,
I'm
Tammy.
kidding. I'm
You-
kidding. I'm kidding.
So much, and again, even with certification and being interested in studying, and the first time I did the Enneagram was oh my gosh, you guys, it's way long ago, a long time ago. It's just, there's a lot, and I'm learning. I am still learning. In this time we have together, we're not going to fill every hole.
No, of course not. Of course not.
So, there's a lot of nuance that eventually we'll
unpack that.
We'll keep unpacking.
Okay.
We'll
All right.
keep unpacking.
All right. Fair enough.
How's that?
Fair enough.
Dig a little deeper.
That's our theme, it feels like.
Yeah.
So, selfishly, I'm going to ask one more question because it keeps popping into my head. It's around this conflict bit, right?
Yeah.
So from a one perspective, being, going to that place of logic, like let's remove ourselves. We have a problem. It doesn't matter what the problem is. Problems, can be managed objectively, and we can come to a resolution, right? Makes absolute sense for me in many situations, to be able to detach and approach it that way. I mentioned earlier that, when it conflicts with my value system is when I just get really worked up. From a one perspective, as it relates to that value system of what's right and what's wrong, like my internal gauge, is that a one, that's a one thing. Yeah.
It is. And that reactive style is associated. So that likelihood of going to that reaction is associated with the stress and growth path of the one.
There. That's what I was trying to get to, because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense for me. I can go to the logical place, and when I don't really give that much of a shit,
it goes to your stress.
Okay.
So under stress, the one is going to go to the 4, and the 4s are the reactive style. So when you're being challenged, that's what's bringing that out.
Got it.
In you.
Got it. It's interesting because somebody recently who knows Enneagram, I don't know what level, but she's like, no, you're an 8. I'm like, no. She's like, no, you have to be an 8. And I think because she has experienced me in a setting where something
conflict.
Something arose that hit me very deeply. And she saw that and automatically thought that you have to be an 8.
Right.
No. Right.
Nope.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is the last little piece that I needed. Now I know for sure I'm a 1 again.
All right. Well, you're
I
confident
am.
in being the
We're
1.
back.
That's
Well, good for
okay.
you.
We're back
Good.
to there. You will be. I have
Lottie da da.
I have the utmost confidence that you are going to work that out.
I will. I'm sure.
Yeah. You will. You will. I will. I
Will
can
you
help
guide
guide
me?
you.
Thank
I will
you.
guide you, but you get to do the hard work.
All right. That's fair.
Awesome. Marcy, thank you for spending some time, for giving us a little bit more insight to some of those nuanced components of Enneagram, which, as we continue down this path of self-discovery, super important. Again, we will put some free links to Enneagram in the episode as we publish this. But don't be surprised. We may be coming out with some experiential types of things that we can do to, continue down that path as we move forward.
Absolutely. That's exciting.
It is exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you both. And thank you for being vulnerable. This is tough stuff. I don't think I can say it enough.
No.
It is tough. It is hard. It's vulnerable. It's but thank you, because so many of us have these feelings and go through this, and like I said before, it doesn't stop.
No,
It keeps coming.
It doesn't.
keeps coming.
So I was taking, Marcy, you sent me a link to a test that you like. And this was some time ago. And I opened it and I started answering questions and I went, I'm just not really in a place to do this today. I wasn't in a place where I was willing to really look and think and feel. So I closed it. And every time I thought about, I really need to go back and do that. Well, not right now. Yeah, but I really not today. Not doing it today. And, I don't know, like 2 months went by and then, we're getting ready to meet today. And I was like, I have to do that. And then, so I did it 3 times and came up with different numbers. And so that's why I'm kind of in a weird place. Yeah. It's not, again, it's just, it sounds like it would be simple. It just isn't. So it is, I don't know why it's so hard to just stop and look at and be introspective. I mean, this is not something that I'm foreign to, right? And even for someone who does it regularly, it's
scary.
It was digging a little deeper than I wanted to dig, I think. And then when I got the results, I was like, well, that's not right. That doesn't describe me at all. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. To be continued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely to be continued.
All right. Fair enough. So if you take the test and you take it, more than once and you just keep getting different numbers, just keep coming back and listen to Riding Sidesaddle. We'll have more Enneagram episodes coming up and we will dig a little deeper into all of this stuff. Maybe it will help you sort things out. So
that's what we do.
Yeah.
We dig a little deeper.
Yeah. You knuckle licker.
I keep having visions of a gorilla when you say that. It's not the image that I'm trying to give off, but either way. Todd, thank you for helping us with the editing for Riding Sidesaddle.
Mind Garden Media. If you're looking for
thank you.
Someone to help you with the podcast, Todd's your guy.
Yeah.
He does fantastic job being a mentor and just guiding and directing and doing all the hard work, all of the work behind the scenes. So
we're
thank
appreciative
you. For sure.
And we are just days away from our 6-month anniversary.
As we record this.
Yeah, as we record this. I feel like a high school new relationship type of thing because I count out how many months we've been together. But it is almost 6 months as we record this.
Oh, nice.
So I am absolutely going to be posting a whole bunch of stuff as it relates to how many downloads we've had and how many views and what countries we're in. It continually blows my mind. So thank you for listening. And clearly some of you are sharing because I don't know anyone in Singapore. So, and we got folks in India and Singapore, the Netherlands listening. So keep sharing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.